my name's Nikki and this is Texafornia Kitchen. I'm just a small town girl from Texas and now I'm in the big state of California. I am no chef, but I have figured out a few recipes to cook. This is going to be a classic chicken pot pie and it's super easy. I'm gonna give y'all the ingredients first and then we'll start cooking. So this is a rotisserie chicken. I'm gonna shred it all up. I'm not messing around making my own chicken. This is just an easy way to do it. Then I have a frozen bag of mixed vegetables. It is a total of 16 ounces, and I'm gonna do about 5 ounces of some chopped onions, and these are frozen as well. I have a cup and a half of milk, and then a cup and a half of chicken broth. I have a half a cup of flour, a fourth a teaspoon, of black pepper, a half a teaspoon of salt, and a heaping teaspoon of this chicken poultry seasoning. It took me a while to find it in the store, so this is what it looks like. And then I have a half cup of butter. So all these are for the meat of the chicken pot pie, and then the rest of these ingredients are for the crust or the topping. So this is a fourth a cup of butter, then we have a teaspoon of salt, a half a cup of shortening, and this is what this looks like. I had never heard of it before, so that's it. Then I have 2/3 cup of cold water, and I'll get into that later, and then 2.5 cups of flour. The last thing is some Parmesan cheese to top the chicken pot pie with. Okay, so now we're gonna get started with the butter on the stovetop. And we're just melting it. All right, so now that the butter's all nice and melted, we're gonna put in the half cup of flour and just stir it all together. We're gonna stir it for a whole minute. Okay, so now that this has been stirred for a minute, we're gonna pour in the chicken broth as well as the milk. And we're gonna stir it for quite a few minutes just until it gets really thick and bubbly. All right, y'all, so this is what the chicken looks like deconstructed. Total, it's about 3 cups. I did want to mention that this is a buttery garlic rotisserie chicken. We just chose that flavor because we thought it'd give more flavor to the chicken pot pie, but you can do a normal rotisserie chicken if you'd like. But just notice that these pieces, they're like completely ground up. It's not really shredded. It's torn apart by hand so we can make sure that there's no bones, no extra pieces of fat. It's just all nice and shredded. So we're gonna put this in the mixture now. All right, so now you all can see that this is a nice thick consistency. It is bubbling, and we're gonna stir in the chicken, veggies, the chopped onions, and all of the seasoning. So we have the poultry seasoning, the salt, and the pepper. And that's it. Now we're gonna stir it all together. And it's gonna make this nice, really thick mixture that's the consistency of the chicken pot pie. Okay, so right now I have the chicken pot pie mixture just sitting on low on the stove, and I'm gonna start making the pastry topper. So we start with the 2.5 cups of flour, and we're gonna mix the 1 teaspoon of salt into it. And we'll just mix it together a little bit. This next part, it's called cutting in the butter and shortening with a pastry blender. This is what a pastry blender looks like. If you don't have one, you can kind of just use 2 forks. So first I'm gonna cut in the butter. And like I said, I'm no chef. I could be doing this wrong, but it turned out all right, so we're going with it. So this part does take a little while. So I've been doing this for about 2 to 3 minutes, and my little tiny chunks of butter are about pea-sized. And I'll tell you, this is a really good arm workout. But I did want to mention that it's best if it's cold butter. It just mixes better. And then later we're also gonna use cold water. I wish I could tell you why, but I don't really know why. So now we're putting in the shortening, and we're gonna do the same thing as we did with the butter. Just cut it in little by little. I'm just adding in a little bit more. And I do this in about 3 steps. Now that I have the rest of the shortening mixed all in here, I'm going to bring the camera in close so that I can show you this next step more easily. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take half a cup of this mixture at a time, or about half a cup. Put it in a separate bowl. Add a tablespoon of water. It's cold water. Sprinkle it over the mixture and use a fork to stir it in. It looks like we're gonna need 2 tablespoons. Once it's more of a dough consistency, I'm just gonna set it out on the counter, and at the end we'll put it all together into one big ball. So I do just wanna say that if any pastry chef is watching me do this and laughing at my way of doing it, I do wanna just mention that this is my hobby, it's not my job. I'm a nurse by trade and I do love to do that. It's just that nurses work 3 days a week, and I'm not saying it's not hard work, working 3 days a week, but on my 4 days off, I like to come home and cook a meal for my husband, and I just like it. It's enjoyable for me, and that's how I've come to get better at making these different recipes. I have the dough here. I mixed them all together in the bowl and just kneaded them all into one big ball. I'm gonna flatten it out a little bit before I start rolling it. Now you're gonna roll out your dough and make it at least longer than whatever dishware you're gonna put your chicken pot pie mixture in. So this is the dish that I'll be using. What I've done in the past is just put it on top to make sure it's gonna cover both ends. I now have my chicken pot pie mixture in my dish. It looks wonderful. It's still hot and warm. Cut about 1-inch strips, 3 long strips. I've got my 3 long strips here. I'm going to set them on top. So to make the strips going across, we're gonna take this dough, roll it back together, roll it out, and then cut the next ones. I should be able to make 4 smaller strips here that'll run across the dish. I'm gonna do them one by one and show y'all how to make this little lattice structure. So I'm gonna pull this one back, put it here, and then put it forward. And it's not perfect, but it'll work. So now I'm gonna pull these 2 back and put this one here and lay it back down. And I think y'all get how the rest of it's gonna work with the last 2. And voila. In the very end, you'll just brush some milk on these little pastries. Dip it and brush it on all over. All right, you guys, I have some Parmesan cheese that I'm just gonna sprinkle on top here. And I have my oven set at 400 degrees. And I'm just gonna pop this baby in for about 40 minutes. And when it's all done, I'll let it rest for 10. And that's it. I think that this chicken pot pie recipe is so easy and it just looks beautiful. And honestly, you can say it's homemade because you did put the hard work into it, even though you used a rotisserie chicken and the frozen vegetables. It came from the heart, so I consider it homemade. And there we have it. Our timer just went off, so I'm gonna get the chicken pot pie out of the oven. Oh, it looks so good. So this is what our finished product looks like. The ends are a little bit crispy, but honestly, this is the best one I've made. It looks beautiful. It smells so good. Our whole house smells like chicken pot pie right now. And I'm really proud of it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that y'all are able to make the same thing. Leave comments and tell me how I can do things better, or if you just liked it in general. Thank you so much for watching.